Why is it important to pray for your future marriage, and why should you be doing it? Well, 1 Peter 5 tells us that we should be alert and stay sober-minded because our enemy prowls around like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. Being alert actually means being in constant communion and prayer with Jesus. And that's actually what he's doing right now as we speak. He's constantly going before the Father, making heavenly intercession on our behalf so that our faith won't fail, which should be the very thing that motivates us to stay in prayer with him. It doesn't mean that you have to pray some eloquent prayer or that prayer has to be hard. Yes, praying scripture is very powerful, but I promise you, God is very concerned about just having your heart. He wants you to come just as you are. And there's an attack on godly marriages. That's the whole reason homosexuality is even a thing, because Satan wants to distort God's beautiful plan for marriage, which is to be fruitful and multiply. Being fruitful is bearing fruit in your marriage. Multiply is having kids. The continuation of God's plan through the generations. Anyways, I started to go down a rabbit hole. This video is an encouragement for you to continue in prayer over your future marriage. So I once had a woman tell me, "Sydney, the moment I stopped praying for my future husband and thinking about him was the moment God brought him." And the only thing is that's actually not scriptural. Because scripture actually tells me to pray without ceasing and make my requests known to God. I understand the point she's trying to convey. Don't let your thoughts be consumed with your future husband, which is absolutely true. We should not let our thoughts be consumed with anything other than Jesus. But we should always be in constant communion with Jesus, not just praying about our future marriage, but in all things. That's making your requests known to God. James 5:16 says that the prayers of a righteous person are powerful and effective. That means you have the power to change your circumstance through prayer. A lot of people read that verse and they're like, "Oh, but I'm not a righteous person and I have to go find someone who's righteous to get prayer." But the thing is you're not righteous by what you do. You're righteous by Jesus's blood, the blood that he shed for you on the cross. And it says that Abraham believed and it was accredited to him all righteousness. So you're righteous by believing and having faith in Jesus. His blood covers you with righteousness. So your prayers are actually your own personal prophecies. In Luke 18, Jesus is telling his disciples about a parable of a persistent widow. And I love this parable because the very beginning of it says, Jesus spoke to them a parable that they ought to always pray and not lose heart. And basically the rest of this parable explains how the widow kept going to an unrighteous judge so that she would be granted justice from her adversary. And the judge got tired of the widow because of her persistence. And so Jesus said, "Shall I not avenge my own children who cry out to me day and night?" And then Jesus literally says, "Will the Son of Man find that kind of faith on earth?" So I just think this is so beautiful because this is the kind of faith he's after. This is the exact faith that moves God's heart. And I've talked to a lot of couples and a lot of them tell me, be very specific in what you're asking for because God will give you exactly that. This isn't to say, I got to pray for all these things so that all my needs will be satisfied in my husband, because that is completely false. That's the exact reason why so many marriages are failing today, because Jesus satisfies our soul. But it is imperative that you marry a man with noble character that has his mind filled with scripture. You do not want to raise children with someone who's not a man of God. So with that being said, keep making your requests known to God and don't lose faith in him.